He is given a guarantee card. No, it is not about longer or shorter. It is just about how efficiently it is being used. Anyway, we'll come back to that. So what would I want in that remote? When somebody is arguing, so put a mute button. Mute button. When talking with children especially, volume button. जोर से बोलो. What? Speak up. No. Huh? Another important feature that I would want there is brightness. Like, you can increase the brightness. You're telling and they're not able to grasp, increase the brightness. And suddenly there'll be that. So you don't need to chant Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. It comes with the remote. The Dhi is brightened. Narayana. I didn't even start this. Usually I take pleasure in starting this, but this I didn't even start. When you meet the maker, you ask him. The other thing that I see most beneficial or useful in my imagination is, these days these big screen, flat screen TVs, they also come with, to increase the HD crispness, they talk about increasing the clarity and sharpness. So good, right? You read the Sloka and increase the clarity. Tuck. Everything is delivered there. A wish list. None of us were born that way. None of us is going to be born that way. We are born without a definitive direction. Therefore, as parents, we really do a good experimentation cautiously on the firstborn. Some of the doctors that I know who work in ER, they say they can easily identify who is the first time parent and who is not. I said, how do you realize that it is the first time parent? More than the kid, it is the mother who is about to faint. Then we know that must be the first time parent. By the second and third, you are already an expert. In olden days, we don't need to have such an expert because such one lying around the house was called a grandmother. They knew. They had the data points, they had the information, and they were quite handy. Right? We are born and we make our own various experiments with. How was the older system, the Gurukula system? In the Gurukula system, before the student was ever explained or taught anything, learning process, educating process, before anything was introduced, the first and foremost thing that was introduced to the child was to equip oneself to master and gain some accessible control over the equipment with which we would interact with the world outside. The body, mind and intellect. Kayena, manasa, buddhya. To equip these three instruments. At an age where they probably do not understand the process or the impact of it either. but the effect of it could be seen. The child was introduced to simple morning routine of exercise called Surya Namaskara. Surya Namaskara does not mean that you go out, step out of the house, see the Surya, say hi to him and come back. That also is called one kind of Surya Namaskara. But the Surya Namaskara has these 12 different steps and you perform them in that particular routine with inhalation, exhalation sequences, and to a round of 12, 24, 36 or 48 times, at least minimum 12 times. Why? So that the physical aspect of it is tuned in. See, my experiences with life, I have had a great fortune in meeting people from different walks of life from whom I have learnt a lot. One such was the carpenter in our ashram. He started as a external person coming there and working. Later, he became a part of the ashram and he started living in the ashram itself. But an amazing person to be with. He was quite elderly. So when we employed him, he would come sharp at 8:30. By 5 o'clock, he would wrap up and leave. And you give him a certain job description. It is not that he would just cut that portion or fix that portion and leave. He would think through and provide improvisations. And when asked, what is this? He would say, today you will not understand it. You will need it as this progresses. And 25 years later, we see that his vision was amazing. Things have been put in such beautiful perspective and they're still sturdy. But one routine that he had every day morning was he had a canvas sheet which he would fold. And as he would open that canvas sheet, there were different pouches on it. So he had all his instruments and little things in there. He had quite a big one, 3 feet by 4 feet or something, quite a big one. He would open it all up. I had a nickname for it. And it was his personal Maya Bazaar. He would open it up. It's almost like, you go on the street side and there's those street hawkers trying to sell. He would have that so meticulously organized. And from 8:30 to 9, half hour, he would pull out every single instrument. Some required tightening of the bolt, some required oiling, some required sharpening. Every pouch, every instrument, he would go through, fine-tune all of them. So after observing him for a few days, I asked, you pack all this by evening 5 and you take it back home. Why don't you sharpen this at home? So I said, at that time I was still a brahmachari. So I said, Brahmachari ji, if you may remember, the first day I came with my tools sharpened. After that, these tools become blunt in your time. And they will be sharpened on your time, not on my time. He had amazing clarity. And then I said, I have been observing you. You don't use all these instruments. Maybe a few more, but not all of them all day long. But why do you sharpen all of them? Why do you fine tune them, all of them, every single day? So he used to say that once I get into work, once that momentum is built, at that time, if I require any of these instruments and they are not fine-tuned, I have to drop that work, come back here, fine-tune it, sharpen it, and then get back. By then that momentum, the heat of that moment is already gone, and it is not an efficient way of functioning. Makes so much sense, right? Now when we start with our life, What was the Rishi's perspective in the Gurukula? They said first get the mastery over, accessible, balance over this equipment of body, mind, and intellect. After we have gained that accessibility over it, then educate into the field that really benefits so that the interaction is cherished and is fruitful. Shouldn't that be the way? Like recently, there was this mother, a very anxious mother. She was having these severe anxiety bouts. She said, Swamiji, I'm so lost. I'm feeling so anxious. I said, what is creating it? My daughter has turned 17 and she has been asking for a car, and I'm scared. I'm scared because, I don't know what will happen. Instead, I've been telling her that go to college and in your second year of college, we'll get you car. I said, Amma, this logic doesn't seem right. Why? Do you want to be there when they are practicing and trying to figure it out and they make mistakes, and while they are making mistakes that you are around them? Or do you want them to go out there into the open and start figuring it out whenever it happens? If this itself is creating this much of anxiety, imagine what would be the anxiety then. So comparative analysis immediately brought her senses back, and the kid was too happy. Swamiji, I have heard of stories wherein when parents come to you, I didn't like it, but if this is the kind of result, I don't mind my parents coming and talking to you always. Wouldn't it be right? Did I advise the mother right? That you want to equip them now so that later is taken care of. Similarly, the Rishi's perspective for entire humanity, and this is not even from a spiritual standpoint, it's a simple utilitarian procedural purpose. Before you can hit the world of experience, equip yourself in gaining access and control over the equipment. And when I say equipment, how much, what are we talking about? 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, mind and intellect. Body, mind and intellect. Would it be okay to say that the gathering here we have crossed on an average 1/3 of our life? Yes, no, kuch to bolo. No, I know many of you maybe even at your 2/3. For today, feel young. 1/3 at least we are done. Having crossed 1/3 of our life, can we confidently say that all these aspects of our instrument are in our accessible, balanced control? Do we carry a L board, learner's board? No. We are quite dangerous beings then. We are out there in the world with absolutely no mastery, no control. Isn't it dangerous? And what are the kinds of dangers? And how do we rectify this process? So the Gurukula at the tender age of 4 or 5, the Guru would introduce them to the Surya Namaskara. The Guru would introduce them to the initiation of Gayatri Mantra. How many of you have been initiated to Gayatri Mantra? 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many of you use that Gayatri mantra as a Sandhya Vandana Japa? It's not just about every day. We are supposed to do at least 3 times a day. Of those, at least 2 are mandatory. Pratar Sandhya, Madhyandhika Sandhya, and Sayam Sandhya. Pratara, morning, Sayam, evening, Madhyandhika, noon. Noon is not mandatory. Morning and evening was mandatory, is mandatory. You're talking about not doing it regularly day by day, but they said daily at least twice was insisted. 108 each time. 10 minute. 10 minute savere, 10 minute sham. 108 each time was prescribed. With the new age gurus claiming a new process of pranayama and teaching, I would say just doing the Sandhya Vandana, which is already incorporated enough of asana, pranayama and mantra, it is a full package system. Is there not a breathing process, inhalation, holding, exhalation, holding, and then this is all a very systematic process. And how young was the kid when this was introduced? 4 or 5 years of age. I'm talking of the Gurukula system. These days it is just done 3 hours before marriage. So you are a brahmachari for not more than 3-4 hours. And then Grihastha entered in. The rishis were not cooked up brains under that matted hair. They had a thorough understanding of inside out what should be the priority. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalair indriyairapi. Body, mind and intellect to be worked at meticulously so that that balance can be gained. Wherein these are non-negotiables. Oh, I don't have time. Oh, no, I don't have this problem. Non-negotiable. Like brushing your teeth. Is it negotiable? Is there a day or time when you don't brush? Don't answer. I saw some eyes move in a different direction. Maybe. Don't answer now. Maybe that was negotiable, but this is non-negotiable. Do you take shower? I mean, daily. See, I have lived in Hyderabad, for a couple of years, couple of times. I used to have a friend on my sports field. He is in fact the captain of our field hockey. He used to say, ये मियाँ तुम लोग रोज के रोज क्या नहाते हो? हम तो जुम्मे के जुम्मे नहाते. Translation is, man, you guys take shower every day. We take once in a week. Jummah is Friday evening. And after knowing that, I don't think on the field for saving or making a goal I have ever given him a hug. As much as taking a shower, brushing, eating food are non-negotiable. So should be these techniques embedded into our life that there is no negotiation talked about. So what are we talking about? At a physical level, to maintain this body in its toned format, do at least half an hour exercise. How many of you find that time to do half an hour exercise daily? It doesn't matter if it is a Sunday or a weekday. How many of you do the exercises? Okay. 4, 5 hands and 2 half. They were like, I'm glad there was another person in the other session said, I do regularly in my dreams, Swami. So I was also not the one to step back. I said, wish we all could see your dream format of expression, because this doesn't reflect any exercise. 1/2 hour. And it's not because I'm talking from the religious point, even on the science point, where they say that if you do half an hour of exercise, it removes all through the sweat, all toxins. It builds, these hormones are released, which actually provide happiness and contentment. Endorphins, dopamine, is it a hormone? These provide that satisfaction and happiness. Happiness hormone. Instead, we don't mind sitting with a glass with few ice cubes and a couple of rounds of cocktail and spend half an hour there. And the complaint is, oh, you don't know, Swami, the stress of life. This relaxes my, day. I cannot use that word because it is senseless. Instead, a half an hour of this is actually, it's what builds, not just at a physical level, but also at a psychological level. It uplifts. So exercise at a physical level. 10 minutes, whether you do puja or japa, how many of you do at least once? Some format of disturbing the God. Puja hua, japa hua, lighting the lamp, lighting the incense, sitting there, rattling out all the mantras or shlokas. When we are happy, we say Shuklam Varadaram Vishnu. When we are happy, Shuklam Varadaram Vishnu. Whatever format. But the advice is, do it twice a day. Once before starting the day, so that you sharpen your system to cater to your day ahead, experiences ahead. And once you have gone through that day, come back, take a shower and again do another 10 minutes, so that you cleanse the reminiscence of that day's effect, so it is not carried forward for another day. That day, clean up and be done with. Twice a day at least, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. How many of us have a habit of reading, healthy reading? Not the Kali Purana. Kali Purana are all those magazines. Who is with who is not with who is riding what, who is not riding what, how many houses, how many sold, what kind of operation done, what kind of not operation done, what is lifted, what is not lifted. How does it matter? That is not healthy reading, what I am suggesting. Instead of reading those stale WhatsApp messages, recently somebody did a research Anybody who owns a smartphone, on an average, do you know how many times that screen is turned on and turned off in a day? Just to check somebody liked the post or not, somebody commented or not, somebody forwarded or not, shared or not. Others, अरे आधा घंटा हो गया किसी ने लाइक नहीं किया. You know how many times people check? On an average, about 270 times in a day. You are on the other edge of average then. And if the average is brought down because of people like you to 270, imagine actually how much people are actually addicted to. We have time for that, but if we take time off to read something healthy, I'm not necessarily talking about, preferable it would be some scriptural book, some biography or autobiography of a great master, prescribed books. But even there are other books which are quite helpful in creating good convictions, good understanding of the world that we live in, that which leaves some positive, inspiring mood or mindset. There are enough books out there. A healthy habit of spending about 20-25 minutes of reading every single day. How many of you have a habit? See, as much as we talk about taking physical nourishment required, and UN declares certain countries as malnourished countries. If there was a device to talk about the nourishment to the emotion and the intellect, the whole globe can be marked as malnourished. Because we never pay attention to it. And those of you who claim that, oh, we nourish it, you are the anomaly right now. You are not the norm. Where do we spend so much of time? And we have come to a point to say that, Swamiji, you don't understand how busy our life is. However busy life may be, how many of you have driven on an autobahn? Germany. You have? What was the maximum speed? What was the maximum speed you drove at? मुझे मालूम है वो स्पीड नहीं है वहां पे. 200 to 10. It's about 140. I'm guessing right now. I'm not being absolute. Anybody else? They say that before you take that vehicle into that autobahn, that your vehicle cannot afford to break down in that freeway. If it breaks down, you are fined heavily. So if you are getting onto such highway, shouldn't it be advisable to fine-tune that vehicle before you get in? Because you don't want to be stuck there where people are going at 200, 210 kilometers per hour. It's a crazy speed. Life is that crazy speed, and our life is already on an autobahn. Some time to be spent, and it is not a negotiable thing. Once you're convinced that it is non-negotiable, you will start carving out time for it. Isn't it? If there is no conviction, then we'll never find time for it, because it will always be in that list somewhere down the lane. I have to exercise also. I have to find time for my good books also. I keep collecting them. The library in the living room is a good display. But beyond that, it has never been dusted. One day after retirement, one day after this, I'll start doing it. Have I told you my dialogue with my grandmother? She used to get so annoyed. Come Sunday, I would take that self unfoldment and my prayers book and come to Chinmaya Mission for Yuva Kendra. And she used to get so annoyed. And she would constantly keep cribbing, complaining. There's an age for everything. Your parents are not doing the right thing. They should actually tell you guys not to do such things right now. This is the time for. Is this the time for these things? So one day she really got annoyed and her decibel level also had increased. So I sat down with her. The rest of the days I would hear it and still continue. That day I sat down with her. I said, grandmother, tell me what is the right time. Said, when you're done with all the life and experiences, you retire and then you're. So I said, would that be at your age, when I reach your age? Something like that. I said, now that you have reached that age, why have I not ever seen you with a Bhagavad Gita book or some chanting stotram or nothing ever? Then she goes on a spin saying, at this age, what to tell you, I cannot read those fine print, I cannot sit properly, if I sit, I cannot stand, if I stand, I have to think twice before sitting down. Ajib kissa hai bhai. When I'm doing it, you say that is not the age. When you say whatever age that has to be reached and you reach that age, you are not qualified because you cannot see, you cannot hear, you cannot. In fact, the scriptures are prescribed for those who are in life living it, not for those who have one foot in the grave ready to quit. That is the whole premise for Bhaja Govindam. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrum karane. And all that we are talking is, if this basic non-negotiable is not embedded into our life, what are we talking about? Big things of moksha, realization, being one with humanity. It's a verbiage, that's all. A meaningless verbiage that we are repeating. What will it take for me to put it across that it is a non-negotiable? That you take it really sincerely and start applying it right from today. Am I missing an angle or a perspective to reach across? I've opened the floor for you, so if you have any objections. Swamiji, all this is okay, but see, when you take morning shower, how much time do you spend average? How much time? 10-15 minutes. That day when you are late, you skip. Oh, yo. That 15-20 minutes that you spend, doesn't that whole process get shrunk down to less than 5 minutes? Is it possible? What do you say? And he's showing the wall. See, the most shastric way of doing it would be take a spoon of water, apavitra pavitro va sarva vastangato viva yasmaret pundarikaksham sabahya bhyantara shuchihi. Oh, that was because I wanted you to hear it. If I want Bhagwan only to hear it, that is only 1 second. We are unnecessarily spending so much time in around goofing off. And the funny thing, I'm not talking to kids going to school. We keep complaining about them that they're wasting their time. We are no better. Only thing, for them there is somebody to whine about it. For you, there is nobody to whine about it, complain about it. Because for us, this has become a negotiable thing, a non-priority which is okay to be removed from life and participation. With blunt instruments, when we face life, okay, let me another point. Sometimes there are certain instruments which are well maintained, well polished, but they are collectibles. Like, a basketball signed by LeBron James. Nicely polished, dusted off in a nice case, it will be in a corner, never to be touched, never to be used. A cricket bat signed by Sunil Gavaskar, Sachin Tendulkar, again nicely polished, nicely dusted off, cased and put aside. You and me don't hold that opportunity, that we polish it and shine ourselves suited, booted, well looking, that we don't have to face life or experiences. I mean, that is maybe Trump, not us. We have to face life. We have to face reality. So this, what is being prescribed, is not to be on a showcase either. Is so that when I meet my life, my experiences, I'm sharp and available. And why does life seems to be so blunt, cold, painful experience? Because I'm going with wrong instruments or unprepared instruments. The overwhelmingness of life and experiences, it's a different game ball altogether. We'll come to that later. But simple things happening day to day. To be available, to be ready for it. And what does that take? A total of about 1 hour per day. A half an hour of exercise, external body. Another half an hour spent on internal. इतना तो करना चाहिए. I know, we'll all go back home. अच्छा था, there's a point to it. देखते हैं, कल परसों देखते हैं. It doesn't happen to translate into today, now. And before we know it, is our life is already, we are run out. On a cricket field, do you know what is the dumbest way to get out? Hit wicket. Hit wicket is the dumbest way to get out. You think you have taken a full defensive stroke, but you have jumped and the bat has already hit the wicket. The bails are off. That is what will happen to all of us if we are not prepared. We are hitting our own wickets. Run out is for that fellow who has put effort somewhere down the line. While running, he falls and he stumbles and gets out. That is still appreciable. Three instruments, and none of the three instruments have been polished or well maintained. And sometimes it is polished once in a while. Once in a weekend. That is why our spirituality is called weekend spirituality. There is no dum in it. It's not damdar spirituality. Weekend spirituality, and it never charges up from within. And when I compare our Indian community with the other communities, they're at 60, 70, they're still going strong. Whereas Indians, by the time we reach 40, बुड्ढे हो गए भाई. Self-claimed. Somebody else comes and says that you are a Buddha, we get angry. Ah, get out, you are a Buddha. I said, how dare you call me Buddha? I take it very personally. But self-claimed. नहीं भाई, हो गया, उम्र हो गया, हम तो बुड्ढे हो गए, हम तो already neglect begins. And it was never taken seriously. By the time 40 we reach, we are already done with it. And all that I'm insisting, this shloka is the basics of life. Kayena manasa buddhya. 3 instruments, 3 haywired, not in balance, not in control. And to bring it in balance, 3 different methods are organized or prescribed. Physically, some exercise. Mentally, some japa. Intellectually, some good reading which brings in deeper conviction and understanding and clarity. Not once in a while, as a regular, meticulous, repeatable, dependable chore. Where do we fail and why do we fail to do it? Because in our minds, this is something that is not a priority. As in Yaksha Prashna, Yaksha asks Yudhishthira, what is the irony of this humanity? He says, everybody dies unaccomplished. People looking at that think, bechara, and assume that it is not going to happen to me. That is the highest heights of irony of humanity. If the purpose is to find that sense of peace, contentment, and a sense of accomplishment while getting there, and the equipments are not in tune, we will not find that sense of contentment. That where there is no contentment, there cannot be peace. That where there is no peace, there cannot be happiness. And that is why when I ask people, how are you, and the answers that they give, I have grouped them into 3 categories. I have shared that before also. How are you? Chal raha hai bhai. I wish I could run with my life. But no, I'm just, I'm just walking along. Chal raha hai. That is first category. This first category is way better than the second category. What is the second category? Similar word, pulling along. I would like to walk, but there's so much that is happening, so much of burden, so much I'm chained. And not that I can drop it and run away. I'm yoked to it. So what am I? And I've learned how to walk around with it. Now I am pulling along, pulling myself along. This pulling along category is way better than the third one. What is the third one? Hanging in there. Wish I can get back to those days when I could walk, when I could, pull along. Now, it is deplorable is my condition wherein I am hanging in there. And my head, I translate it into Hindi. लटक रहा हूं. हाय मेरी जिंदगी. It is latkofying. And sympathies to such fellow. But who brought that thing about in one's own life? Whether I have to hang in there or pull along or to walk or to really be there, upbeat. How is life? Ekdam jalsa ma. Any Gujarati here? No, here, right now. It is not chale che, it is not, it is jalsa. Jalsa, celebration. Awesome. The peak of it. And this is all not while being on high. Yes, if you may call it, I had said being on high with life. Not on any other substance. That should be the spirit with which one lives. And with that spirit, when it doesn't matter if the life is on a repeated pattern. Every repeated pattern becomes another opportunity to bring out my best. Care not if somebody appreciates it or not. Why? I am doing it for my satisfaction. See, the way I look at it, every Sunday, come to the session, same faces sitting, same Bhagavad Gita I have to speak, teach them the Sloka how to teach. Please read the 2 paragraphs of meaning. English सबको आता है ना, समझ गया है ना, done and go. There is no joy in it. And the way I look at my own effort is to bring that joy to my own experience, and if you all can connect with that, is a bonus. That is how we should be with the world, wherever we are, whatever we are doing. And that will start with the basic 3 instruments, and they have to be in proper alignment. The flight that you are taking off, if the engineer calls you and says that, hey, in the tail there is 1 screw missing, would you even go in such flight? चलता है यार. Then why be so reckless with our own life? Am I getting across? Is it making a home run? Now touchdown, next point. If not for yourself, if not for your sake, at least do it for the sake of your children. Why? Then you don't need to insist. They see it by your ideal. They may seem to resist it, but when they have to form their habits, that which they have been seeing in you will alone start reflecting unconsciously in their life. So at least for their sake, can you bring in a change in yourself? That I call touchdown. You had a question? Oh, I was not that far away. Wow. Oh. Oh, now please pay $1,000. Because I am never free. I am costly. Shame to shame. Exactly what I just said. No, please buy the banquet ticket. While you leave, buy the banquet ticket. He has the tickets. If you find that interesting, support. So it is not free. I tell you, if we bring these three changes in life, the easiness with which we can face the pressure that is removed is unfathomable. At this point, you will not be able to realize what kind of pressure free it will be, how much stress would reduce. If you want to attempt at it, meticulously attempt it for 21 days to 30 days. Then see the change. Not a day or two, but 21 to 30 days. And for me, it took more than that. It took me at least about 90 days to form a habit, 3 months. After that, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, waking up at that particular time and getting into that mode and getting it done, it's not even an effort. It's a no-brainer. I was not something that I was born with, that when I was young, 4 o'clock sharp I used to wake up. Khak. No, it was not something that happened naturally. It was a developed habit and it is beneficial. As they say, you can bring the pond to the horse. Hopefully one day the horse will find the thirst and drink. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.